Welcome to the Celebrate Brave podcast. I'm Nicole Steinbach, your host and the International Bravery Coach, on a mission to redefine brave, how we identify it, live it, and most importantly, celebrate it. Because when you build your brave, you change your world, and that changes the world. Talk about something to celebrate. Let's go. Hello, brave people. To celebrate the 20th episode of the Celebrate Brave podcast, I am giving you what you've asked for the most. So this episode is episodes 2, 3, and 4 edited together so that in one podcast episode, you have all 3 parts of my Build Your Brave framework. Thank you to everybody that gave feedback and asked for this. The Build Your Brave framework is changing people's lives. Clarity, tell it to your dentist. Momentum, experience it like a kindergartner. And accountability, own it like a boss. Brave it up. I am so excited today to dive into part 1 of my 3-part framework for Build Your Brave. I mentioned this in the last episode, so if you missed that one and you want to have a holistic view, head on back over there and get a quick overview of the 3-part, the research, the sourcing, the experience, etc. of the framework I'm going to dive into today. Okay, let's go. Tell it to your dentist. Now remember, this is about having fun. It's about being a little kooky, right? And I want to start us off today with, I'm trying to think how to describe this, with a bit more specific definition, a redefinition of what brave really means. So in our cultures, and I lived in Europe for over a decade. I've traveled to over 25 different countries for work, even more for holidays, which is far more enjoyable. So expensive way to travel. And here's the thing. In our cultures, far too often, our definition of brave is running into burning buildings and slamming our fingers onto the desk and saying, it's gonna be this way. And that's not only what we're talking about here. This is about the type of brave we all live every day. This is about talking about the skill of bravery, the joy of success, the joy of failure. So I want to just quote the amazing Glennon Doyle in her book Untamed. And when I read this, I thought, oh my goodness, I slammed the book shut. And then I just squeezed it hard against my body because yes, this is the type of brave that took me from welfare to multiple 6 figures. Okay. And this is on page 105 of the hard version of the book. That word fails me. Whether you are brave or not cannot be judged by people on the outside. Sometimes being brave requires letting the crowd think you're a coward. Sometimes being brave means letting everyone down but yourself. If that doesn't send chills up and down your spine and expand your heart. He goes on to say, Brave is not asking the crowd what is brave. Brave is deciding for oneself. Okay, so with this in mind, with this inspiration, with this incredible view that I could not agree with more, tell it to your dentist. In my corporate career, I was offered vice president roles a couple of times, more than a handful of times. And in each of those times, these were opportunities that just weren't right for me. But it's a VP position. More power, more control, more visibility, more whatever else it is, stock options, payment, likes on your LinkedIn. To be honest, I'm not exactly sure what it would have been more of, because that option was not the brave option for me. Why? I already had prime opportunities. All the prime opportunities? No. Does anybody have all of them? No. And the only reason I could walk away from those positions, the only reason I could say no as a full and complete sentence, the only reason is because I had incredible clarity, incredible specificity, incredible belief that it was okay, that I was okay, that although other people may not understand, and there were people who did not understand, I was making the brave choice for me in my life. Tell it to your dentist. Now, tell it to your dentist is not about just saying no. Of course not. Tell it to your dentist is a fun way to say you got to get real specific. Really specific, really unique to yourself. Okay, so some of the ways that you can do this right now, is you can say, me, what do I want? Sometimes people need to start with, what do I not want? I know I had to do that. I had to know, I do not want to stay in Ohio. Is Ohio horrible? No. Obviously, people live there and they love it. I did not want to stay in Ohio. I did not want to stay in education. I did not. You can start with the nots. The first thing you do is you write it down. Why? And write it down. Not type it down, write it down. There is a ton of research out there that explains why you want to write it down, but write it down. You want to invest in yourself? Buy a fantastic notebook. Buy a lovely notebook. And grab a piece of scrap paper, y'all. I use scrap paper all the time for big and everyday things. Write it down. Write down that goal. And this is where the specify comes into play, and tell it to your dentist. Because remember, the goal here, the outcome of this part 1 is that when you're at the dentist and the dentist starts making conversation, you can say what it is you're after, what you're building, what you're creating, what you're achieving, so simply and so specifically that your dentist not only understands you with their tools and their fingers in your mouth, but they can also help you. So specify how many, what kind, when, where, with whom. There's lots of ways you can specify. And again, it's okay. I encourage you to start with the nots. That's a-okay. If that's what helps you get more specific, go for it. Okay, so you've written it down. You've gotten more specific. Of course, this means editing. I know. English major here. Whoop. So you've edited it. And now, here we go a little bit more. You're going to put all of your verbs into the simple present tense. Don't worry about what that means. There are only a couple, like less than a handful of languages in the entire world that don't utilize this tense. This is the tense for right now. So instead of I will earn a promotion, I will travel more, I will, or I should. Side note, if it's should, could, would, any of these conditional things, throw that out. That is not your goal, honey. You get one life. You get one go around in this situation, in this makeup, in this whatever. This is your one. Don't live somebody else's life, okay? That's a huge part of bravery. Remember what Glennon Doyle had written? This is yours. So get those shoulds on out of here. I should earn more money is the worst reason to go after a raise. Okay? All right. So simple present tense. So you've written it down. You've gotten specific. Simple present tense. All right, ready? That's the inside part. You're going to play with this for a while. It's not going to hit exactly there. You're going to stretch inside. That's that first building bravery on the inside. And then you go to the outside. And this is the part, tell it to your dentist. Okay, not literally your dentist if you don't want to. I don't want you waiting 6 months to start telling people about this. No. Take a moment right now and think about 3 to 5 brave people in your life that believe in you, that stretch you. These people, they could have something to do with their brave, with your brave goal, or they could not. You know, it's just kind of one of those things. But these are people who believe in you. These are people who, when you tell them your next big thing, your next big success, they lean forward and they say things like, tell me more. How's that going to happen? I don't know if that's a big enough goal. Or what's your motivation? These are the people who are there with you, working through it, talking through it, thinking through whatever it is that you just shared with them. This step of sharing your specific, unique, present tense, goal, ambition, next big success, this is super uncomfortable. And unfortunately, we can learn things about ourselves and our relationships we don't really enjoy. That's going to be in part 3, Own It Like a Boss. Just heads up. Okay, that is tell it to your dentist. This takes some time and it's always shifting. You'll become more specific. If you're starting in the I don't want these things, over time you're going to get to I want these things. And it's so important that you start with the foundation. Bravery is a skill. Everyone is brave. The reality of what brave looks like, feels like, smells like, tastes like, sounds like, all the senses. It's bigger, it's deeper, it's more glorious, it's more. And you deserve more. You deserve to live your bravest, fullest, most gorgeous life. And part 1 is making sure you know what that is. Part 2 of my 3-part Build Your Brain framework is all about experience it like a kindergartner. I find so much inspiration from other humans doing their brave. And sometimes I don't understand their brave, and other times I deeply connect to it. One of the people I want to bring into our conversation today His name is Dre McKesson. He is an activist, an author, a role model. Oh, he is all the things. And he has an amazing podcast called Pod Save the People. He also wrote a book I find deeply inspiring. It's called On the Other Side of Freedom, The Case for Hope. And I want to bring his words into our conversation and go deeper into experience it like a kindergartner. Experience it like a kindergartner is all about the learn, act spiral. So learning just enough to take an action that's just enough to learn. You see what I'm saying here? It's always a spiral, right? And it's based on laughter and frustration and connection and trials and success and failure and all the yumminess that builds towards our experience. So what does Dre have to say about this? And this is on page 196 of the hardcover version. I remembered it this time. Just because people aren't shouting doesn't mean that they are being silent. Just because people aren't showing up in the way we expect doesn't mean that they are hiding. We have to remember that we are all of our identities at once, every time. This is your unneeded permission slip to build your brave, experience your goal, your growth, your stretch in a way uniquely, wonderfully, confusingly, just you, uniquely you. This is never about what Bob did, what Muhammad did, what Andrea did, what Sally did, what Maria did. And it's also not what the four of those people did not do. This is about you. You as a kindergartner, you in your experience. Experience it like a kindergartner. Experience it like a kindergartner is really this part 2 where we're becoming ever more clear what we are telling our dentist about. So as you step into experience it as a kindergartner, keep writing that goal. Keep letting that stretch, that next big success, that next wonderfulness, let it develop. Encourage it to grow, play with it, and also play with your experience. As Shirley Chisholm said, you don't make progress by standing on the sidelines, whimpering and complaining. You make progress by implementing ideas. You know, there are different ways to implement. There are different ways to get off the sidelines. And there are also times to be on the sidelines. There's also times to experience the stillness. I'll go into that in another podcast. The first is either to learn something new or to act in something new. To act in something new or to learn something new. And let me share a really personal story. I am sitting at my desk in my home. I've got this awkward setup with this mic and this arm that's attached to my desk, and then there's a pop filter, and I feel super uncomfortable. I'm just talking to myself, essentially. I mean, I'm stoked that you're listening to this, but right now, I am thinking of someone, but I'm talking to myself. I'm thinking of you, and I'm recording myself. And it's very awkward and uncomfortable. What did I do? Well, first I learned. I listened. Well, I love podcasts. Let's be clear. And I also found experts to talk to, people already making podcasts. I have an amazing support team to make this podcast possible at all. And I listened to them. I asked. I reached out. I learned. I ordered all this awkward equipment on my desk. And then I put it into place. That was a whole learn act cycle on its own. And now here I am in action, in service. There were moments of frustration. There were moments of joy. I am so excited to be just that little bit further in a learn act cycle, in a spiral of acting and learning of this experience to be of more service to more people all over the world. So that's an example of my own recent experience to your dentist. I am changing the definition of brave. I am celebrating brave. I am serving women all over the world to build their brave so they change their world. More money, more opportunities, better and deeper relationships, because that's where we get our opportunities from. Oh, so much. So that together we change the world together. And part of that spiral is this podcast, is learning about this podcast. And so what I want you to do today, dear brave soul, is I want you to rewrite your goal. It's changed a little bit. Rewrite it. And then right now, today, in this moment, what can you learn? What can you put into practice? So right now, at this very moment, identify what's one thing you can learn or what's one action you can take to move in your spiral just a little bit. Because it's those little bits all built up together that break you right through into a new, brave life and world that you deserve. Doesn't that sound exciting? It's so exciting and it's so rewarding and you deserve it. And as you build your spiral, as you're learning, as you're acting, as you're learning, as you're acting, as you're having these experiences, celebrate the emotions just like a kindergartner. Build your brave so you can change your world, because that changes the world. Part 3 is called Own It Like a Boss. And it's swagger and confidence and frustration and disappointment and so much goodness. So much growth. So much growth. There are so many amazing role models for owning it like a boss from all over the world. It was very difficult for me to identify which quote I was going to use for this podcast because I'm telling y'all, I have hundreds. Why do I have hundreds? Because this is where most people spend the most of their energy and time. Sounds wild, right? I mean, if you know what you want, tell it to your dentist. And you're in action, experience it like a kindergartner. Why is Own It Like a Boss where so many people, including myself, spend so much of their time and so much of their energy? And how is this different than experiencing it like a kindergartner? 2 questions I get asked all the time from my personal clients, from my small group cohorts, and when I speak publicly. Here are my answers. Number 1, because clarity takes time and it's always shifting, but it's our behaviors, our beliefs, our mindset, our relationships, our personalities, our growth patterns, our learning styles. Oh my goodness, all these things that make us the wonderful, unique people that we are. That's where the rubber hits the road and stays there. That's where the shift, the building your brave, sustain. That's where not a change, but a transformation. A transformation. Can I say that again? A transformation really, really, really settles in and becomes the new reality. That's why. The learn and the act and the experience, that whole spiral, that's sort of what other people see. The own it like a boss, that's what we see, what we feel, what we experience. And the outcome of that impacts other people. Oh, it sounds so academic and so theoretical. And I get that. I totally understand that. That's why I started this framework saying, hey, these parts I artificially called part 1, part 2, and part 3, because in reality, they are always underway at the same time in different ways. So much richness. So own it like a boss. And in the end, I decided that I would bring to the table a quote from Randy Pausch. Randy Pausch is not someone who a ton of people have heard of. It's a bummer because his last lecture is the best last lecture out there. So if you're not familiar with the concept of the last lecture, the idea, and it is a millennial old, the idea is that one gives a lecture as if it was their last lecture. As if. The twist here with Randy Pausch is that it truly was his quote-unquote last lecture. He had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and he knew he was on his way into that next phase, whatever his set of beliefs were. And so he gave this lecture at Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh at the university where he was a professor. And there is so much goodness in this. And while he does have a book, The Last Lecture, I highly recommend checking out the YouTube recording. The quote I want to bring to us today is a quote that I had lived. I had lived in an unstable household. I had lived going from school to school throughout my childhood. I had lived in keeping my scholarships and getting to college in the first place. I had lived in my relationships and I hadn't ever been gifted a metaphor to help me understand what I was living. So here we go. The brick walls are there for a reason. The brick walls are not there to keep us out. The brick walls are there to give us a chance to show how badly we want something. Because the brick walls are there to stop the people who don't want it badly enough. They're there to stop the other people. I'm going to say the beginning sentence and the end sentence again, because it is so powerful and it relates so much to the conversation today of owning it like a boss. The brick walls are there for a reason. They're there to stop the other people. Oh, brave soul. You have written down your next big success. You have been playing with it. You've gotten more specific. It's become more real to you. You are in the spiral of experiencing it like a kindergartner. You're learning, you're acting, you're experiencing the joys and the frustration, the successes, the failures, sometimes even the boredom. Here we go. You're running into brick walls, right? Maybe you already crashed into one. Maybe you know one is there. And you're thinking, ugh, that's going to be a lot of work. Getting through, getting over, going around that brick wall. Oh, that's going to be. Is my next big success? Is my goal? Is my clarity? Is my learning and acting? Is it really worth the effort to deal with that brick wall? Only you know the answer to that. Only you know the answer to that. But if the answer is yes, if the answer is my goal, not only am I telling it to my dentist and experiencing it like a kindergartner, but I am going to make it mine. I am making it mine. I make it mine. Then that brick wall is there to show you, to give you an opportunity to show how badly you want your goal, your next big success. It is a gift. When I decided to step out of corporate, to leave behind the snazzy, super impressive title of Global Senior Director, it was terrifying. Talk about brick walls. Ooh, inside me, inside my relationships, I was called crazy. I felt crazy. And then there were all these things I didn't know. All these people I didn't know. Brick walls all around. And then the choice, the ever continuing choice to go through it, to climb over it, to go under it, and to go around it. I didn't know the people. I didn't know entrepreneurs. I didn't. I had built my career in Germany, in Europe. My network was all over Europe and then North America and then Asia and then South America and then Africa. That's how much time I spent identifying where's my network. And very, very few of those people were entrepreneurs. And here I am in Colorado. Brick walls. Brick walls. So what did I do? I went in search. I learned, I acted. I learned, I acted. I knew I was going to need a team. So I started consulting so I can be a part of a team. I knew I would need role models. So I found podcasts. I asked people, what are you listening to? I was gifted by a super, super amazing woman the gift of knowing about Marie Forleo. I took courses and I joined a mastermind. And before I was fully aware, I had my company up and running. I had something like a network. I had an accountability partner and my first private clients, because the brick walls are there to give me a chance to show how badly I want something. And I badly want to redefine brave. I want to shift how we see it, identify it, how we celebrate it. And I want the spine of our world, which is technology. Now, of course, it's heart and connection and human experience. Of course. It's the environment. Of course. 100%. And the one that we have built is technology. And right now, technology is keeping way too many people out. Way too many people out. And that has got to change. And when women in technology build their brave, when they build their brave and change their world, more money, better relationships, more opportunities, bigger seats, building new tables, new banquet halls, as I was recently told, technology will be more inclusive. It is more inclusive than it was a year ago. And that will only continue. I am so passionate about that all of the brick walls give me a chance to show how badly I want it. So yeah, they stop other people. And sometimes a brick wall also stops me. There are certain aspects of being an entrepreneur, like website development. Woman in tech, not excited about website development. Social media design, that is a brick wall. Could I climb over it? Could I go under it? Could I go around it? 1000%. Do I want to? No, as a matter of fact, I do not. So now I have to own it like a boss. I have to be very clear. Tell it to your dentist. Social media, 3 channels. The feeling is brave, confident, empowered. Who is the expert I will work with to ensure social media is up to date? Social media reflects who I am and what I want to bring in the world, and social media is not on my plate. Now, if you go in there and you see longer stories or iStories, that's me. I'm sharing a story. That's a brick wall. I'll climb over. I'll go around. I'll go under. I'll go through. And making it designed, that's not me. I don't do that designing and I don't do that posting because that is a brick wall that showed me I do not badly want that. Instead, I badly want to work with an expert who badly wants that. Because the brick walls are there for a reason. And the reason is to ensure we own it like a boss. And we own our mindset, our beliefs, our relationships, our behaviors, our habit, our finances, all of it. That we own it, the good, the bad, the ugly, so that you build the skill of bravery to change your world. And that changes our world. And isn't that something to celebrate? So you've heard my passion about brick walls. You have heard and experienced the yumminess of own it like a boss. But what can you, dear brave soul, what can you do right now to experience it like a kindergartner so that your next big success becomes your reality? Okay. There are 2 things, 2 questions. Simple, not easy. Simple, not easy. All right, here we go. What obstacle do you need to address? Is it perhaps a habit you want to change? A difficult conversation you've been avoiding? A mindset you need to shift? A skill you need to earn, build, deepen, enhance? What's an obstacle you need to address? Okay, question number 2. What opportunity do you need to grab? I'll tell you, these opportunities, I get a lot of pushback about this. What does that mean? What does that mean? and I get it. Sometimes it's really hard. We've got this negative bias brain. It's really hard to identify an opportunity. So another way to think about this is what has come, quote unquote, too soon. What is in your life, or who is in your life, or could be that you are, quote, not ready for? Those are opportunities. Because if it's there, if the possibility is there, you're ready for it. You're ready for the stretch. You're ready to build the brave of the stretch for that opportunity. Okay? So those are the two questions. What obstacle? What opportunity? Simple, not easy. When you have those answers, guess what? Experience it like a kindergartner so that you're telling it to your dentist. You're in the spiral. You're building your brave. And if you own it like a boss, no, wait. When you own it like a boss, we're not doing ifs. When you own it like a boss, what today is your goal is soon your reality. What is today your goal is soon your reality. When I started this business, I knew I would be of service to women in tech, building their brave to change their world so that together we change the world. That is my reality today. My clients are killing it. They're building it. They're creating it. They're altering it. They are transforming their world and through that, our world. My clients, 92% of them, 92. I couldn't believe the data. I actually had someone else run the data because it seemed so wild. 92% of them have more money after working with them. Wild. Imagine all that generational wealth, that audacious wealth. Way over half experience career progression. And way over half report deepened, stronger, broader relationships. And those relationships are how you and I, we gain access to those opportunities. It's also how we create opportunities for others and how we make sure folks that haven't been, quote unquote, in the room where it happens or even knew the room existed, that they get into that room. That's what my clients are doing because they build their brave. They change their world. They change the world. And you can too. You deserve it. So tell it to your dentist, experience it like a kindergartner, own it like a boss, and brave it up. Celebrate brave. Until the next episode, brave it up.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Celebrate Brave podcast. If you're ready to build your brave, to live a life you love, and create a career that matters to you, reach out. Together, we can spend time one-on-one to explore how I can help you. And until then, share this episode with people in your life. People who can join our movement to redefine brave, how we identify it, experience it, and celebrate it.